This is Dolynny TV. The finger snap would happen if the cat was not in the way. Guys, big day, of course, big night last night, and that means I don't really have a chance to recap it until right here, right now with y'all. So let's get to it. The hot stove between season ticket holders and, of course, the Edmonton Oilers brass took part last night, and Ken Holland had a lot to say. And that's the interesting part right here, as you see Zap's trying to absolutely murder me for not giving her attention. Anyways, you come for the Oilers news, not the cat, so I assume. And Holland provides the McDavid injury update. That's where we'll start. That's the big key news. And, well, this is the thing. McDavid, in Holland's words, is doing good. He's seen him twice this week. 10 days ago, he drove to Toronto and spent 2 or 3 hours with Connor, having lunch and talking to him. Then this week on Monday, he was in Toronto for 2 days, Tuesday with the competition community, but I went up on Monday to spend time with Connor again and see where he works out. He's doing good. He's rehabbing. That's key number one, right? We want to hear he's doing good and that he's rehabbing. Obviously, the brace on the knee the other day, that's scary news. The brace on the knee is still scary news. The fact it's June 14th and I don't think Connor McDavid stepped on the ice since April 6th. That's a little bit scary. However, Holland continued to say, I expect to see Connor on the ice at training camp, working closely with our medical team and the medical people he's got in Toronto to make sure he's getting the best care possible. Another key point, Connor's in great spirits. Holland really enjoyed meeting him, and it was the first time that he got to sit down and meet with him. And the last point here Holland makes is he's doing great and looking forward to being on the ice at training camp. Bing, bang, boom, guys. That's as simple as I can make that for you. Connor McDavid, progressing. That's all we can ask, right? Connor McDavid progressing towards getting better and getting back on the ice. If Connor McDavid's back at training camp, we have no worries about this year. If we do everything else that Holland will outline as I go through this video, I think we're on track for a very great season. Problem is, Connor McDavid, a little bit of a wild card right now, and that's not a place I want to be. No sirree. So without further ado, Zap, I don't even know what you're doing at this point. Sip of water, and let's get back onto the track here. The update about Jesse Puljujärvi. Holland staying the course with Puljujärvi is the headline from the Edmonton Oilers website directly. And now, here we go. Let's get into it. So, Ken Holland is prepared to allow the 21-year-old Jesse Puljujärvi time to further adjust his game after experiencing some adversity in his first 3 NHL seasons. That's kind of the lead sentence here from EdmontonOilers.com. That's what they're leading with. So this is what you got to get in and look at. So let's see. We don't need his stats because we all know how that goes. And basically, Ken Holland's big point here, Ken Holland's huge overarching point with Jesse Puljujärvi is the fact that 18, 19, 20, 21, you first start dealing with adversity. Because his whole point is if you're at the top of the draft class when you get selected, guess what? You haven't dealt with adversity to that point to the degree that professional sports will challenge you. You are the cream of the crop. You are the best of the best. There's a reason you're up there. You're not some hack who put a puck in the net twice in a season and somebody said, damn, that guy deserves to go number 1 overall. No, or even number 4. You know where I'm going with that. No, you've absolutely bubbled to the top. You've dominated. That's essentially the word I'm looking for. You've dominated everyone else so much so that you're a top 4 pick. Well, then all of a sudden, the reality of being a professional sports athlete, professional hockey player in a pressure cooker of a market starts to get to you. And it's the first time you've got to deal with adversity. And you imagine how Jesse Puljujärvi's dealt with adversity, right? He had Todd McLellan, forced development in the NHL. You have then the coaching switch to Ken Hitchcock, who was dealing with an injured Jesse Puljujärvi, tried to get too much out of him, couldn't get it out of him, demoted him down the lineup, and it really didn't work. And then he's off for hip surgery. Well, now you've got Dave Tippett and Ken Holland, who Ken Holland and Dave Tippett are committed to getting this right. And at 21, yes, you can still get it right. All of a sudden, I can hear the comments in the section below saying, why are you changing your tone on this? I'm not. I'm looking at it this way from Ken Holland. I'm still ideally, you know what, Jesse Puljujärvi might be best to be traded to get some contracts off the book and get something of value in return for him. But at the same rate, maybe not. Maybe if Ken Holland and Dave Tippett are going to commit to doing this right, give him a spot, give him line mates who are going to be there every single night with him, give him a chance to actually succeed. Maybe I get proved wrong for the past 3 months, and that's not a bad thing. Guys, I will not kid you. If Lucic, Puljujärvi, Yamamoto, Adam Larson, you name it, anyone I've crapped on since the end of the season comes up and shows and proves what they can do next year, I'll eat my words. I'll go get alphabets from the grocery store and say December we're sitting in first in the Pacific Division. I will guarantee you I will eat a bowl of alphabets for a video, 100%. With that, let's continue. Because you get down to this quote from Mr. Ken Holland. Jesse was obviously a player at 4th overall, an incredibly talented player, and he wakes up 3 years later at the age of 21 and the career hasn't gone the way everybody has expected it to go. We just have to stick with it. So that's where I was going with my whole thing about Ken Holland. Head coach Tippett and I were talking about it yesterday, and Jesse was here yesterday. I spent about an hour talking with him. With Jesse, he's had a lot of adversity, and I'm hoping with a new general manager and new head coach being a little bit older, he's 21, not 18 or 19, that we can get him in the lineup on an every night basis and find him some chemistry with some players and earn the coach's trust and become more and more important as we go forward. So, what does that mean? Probably a third line role, and that's what he kind of goes on. Even if it's on the third or fourth line, we're going to find him consistent time, consistent line mates. That's a bang decision from the head coach and general manager together. You wonder why Holland wanted Tippett? Because they're going to work together. Good go. That's good enough. I'm happy to see this coming together the way it needs to. So, who then do you look at? If you're the Oilers, who are your line mates for Jesse Puljujärvi? Well, third line, what was it last year? Gagner and Cave for the most part. Honestly, if you're doing something with Gagner, as might have been suggested today, I haven't read something, but it might have been suggested. Gagner and Cave, probably the best pair. If not, Cave and Chiasson, right? And this is the perfect opportunity, in my opinion, for a guy like Jesse Puljujärvi to thrive. Literally thrive. Because he'll succeed at generating chemistry with line mates, but in a third line role with Cave and a guy like Gagner or Chiasson, he's the guy that should be expected to drive the line. Not necessarily, you know what I mean, like Connor McDavid drive a line, but he's the guy everything goes through. And if you're the Edmonton Oilers, putting Jesse Puljujärvi to start the 1920 season on the third line, that's exactly what you need him to do to develop into that top 6, top line forward, whatever you project him out to be. And Jesse Puljujärvi, honestly, you get him on a line with Nugent Hopkins after driving his own line, and you get them meshing and going. Guys, it could be absolutely scary, given what talent Jesse possesses that he's yet to unlock at the NHL level. Now, we've done this once before last year, and I was pretty stoked to have Yamamoto, Ratty, and Puljujärvi. Yes, I was cautious, but I was stoked to have those as our top 3 right wingers. Somehow at the end of the year, our 4th line right winger was our top right winger. That was Mr. Zach Kassian. So, I've done it before and I've gotten overly excited, but it's a chance to get it right if the GM and the head coach are doing it in tandem to get it right and move him up the lineup as he checks the boxes. That's what you do with a young player, and to hear this from a head coach and general manager tandem of the Edmonton Oilers at 21 after a botched development so far, this is about as promising of a notion as you can get. So, further progression for the forward begins with knowing he has a place in the lineup and developing by prioritizing incremental gains and chemistry with line mates. Exactly what I said. check those boxes and climb the ladder. That's all Jesse Puljujärvi's got to do, and if he gets the chance, and I guess honestly he's afforded that chance. He should be afforded that chance. I can't argue against that, but he is a very valuable trade chip as well if you're looking to move one of those bad contracts. So you can look at it one of two ways. Now that I read this, I'm kind of actually excited to see what a guy like Ken Holland and Dave Tippett working together can do for a guy like Jesse Puljujärvi. That would be the exciting thing for me as an Oilers fan, just to see if he can get it right. And he just goes on to say that Holland says, I think it's really hard for young players to understand, because you go in and we just had the combine. All those players think they're going to be on the first or second line in a year or the next year after that. That's not always the case. And we know with a guy like Ken Holland, that's not how it was in Detroit 75-80% of the time. So that's good news if you're Jesse Puljujärvi and you have a guy who actually wants to work with you and develop you into something. So that's all good. That's dandy. That's the Jesse Puljujärvi news. Now, the other news. The last bit of news I have for you. I know this video is already over 10 minutes and you're probably like, holy crap, Tyson's actually going more than 10:01 today. Well, we're going for it. Draft strategy. So he talked about the key priorities ahead of the 2019 NHL draft and free agency period. We all know the draft is next week this time. And, well, the draft. We got the 8th pick. That's pretty obvious. And we're going to get a really good player, says Holland. That's great news. We've got some good young defensemen in the organization. People talk philosophy. Do you go for the best player or do you go for the position? I think there's a lot of players that are really close, and I know that we're going to add a really good young player to the organization. Organization, not lineup. Key point. Now, the thing is, he does admit that he has been noticing NHL executives making more transactions at the draft than ever, and his phone lines have been rather busy speaking to fellow managers across the league. So keep that in mind, guys. The old draft, there might be a phone call made table to table, considering the Edmonton Oilers and where they sit. So that's even funner news. Now, we need to make our team better for the 2019-2020 season. And he's been on the phone the last couple of weeks with general managers around the league. Any trades or moves that come in the NHL, for the most part, come when you're in Vancouver for the draft. We saw Radko Gudas for Matt Niskanen. You usually see about 3 trades prior to the draft, and had an opportunity to understand what the other managers want to accomplish and what we're trying to accomplish. And here's what Ken Holland says about the Oilers in general. We've got to get deeper up front, and we certainly got to get another goaltender, so we have a 2-goaltender system. This is not the Mikko Koskinen show. This is going to be 1A, 1B, show and prove, take the net, run. This is not the thing like Cam Talbot and Mikko Koskinen, where it's like, oh, Koskinen, you just got to look sharp. And Cam, 2016-17 mean anything to you? Can you do that again? We really need you to do that again. That's what last year was, and it was embarrassing. And then obviously right after that we have July 1st, unrestricted free agency, and they're going to certainly explore the market to see if there's a player or two that makes us better. So there you go. Guys, those are the news nuggets of the day that you need to know straight from the Edmonton Oilers. I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. Hit me up in those comments section down below. Let me know what you think about the Oilers news today. And if you're scrolling down there, hit that subscribe button. Get those notifications. You want to get here as fast as possible, because let me tell you, the comments section, about 5 minutes after the video's been uploaded, guys, the arguments, the discussion is great. You don't want to miss that. Guys, Tyson Dolynny TV, that's that for her. I am up on out of here.